Welcome to Manhattan Neighborhood Network's Represent NYC. I'm Councilmember Ben Kallos. My pronouns are he, his, him. I'm co-chair of the New York City Council Progressive Caucus, and I'll be your host for the show on excluded workers living in New York City during the coronavirus pandemic. We're joined by 2 excluded workers as well as 2 leaders from organizations seeking to protect them. We have Juana Alvarez, a member, and Ángeles Solis, a leader and organizer at Make the Road, who will be translating. We also have Sonia Perez, a food vendor in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and a member, as well as Carina Kaufman-Gutierrez, Deputy Director at the Street Vendor Project from the Urban Justice Center. I want to thank our guests who are joining us today, even though they lost power and internet during the hurricane yesterday. Since the start of the pandemic, Congress has directed aid to millions of Americans who are hit hardest by the pandemic. One-time economic impact payments paid $1,200 per adult and $500 per child for families earning less than $198,000 a year. Then only to those receiving Social Security or who filed taxes in 2018 or 2019. The Small Business Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, provided 8 weeks of payroll, including benefits to businesses that retained their employees. Funds were almost immediately exhausted, seeming to have gone to many of our nation's biggest corporations, with few stories of small businesses actually getting the funds they needed. For many of those who lost their jobs in spite of the PPP, many received New York State unemployment benefits of up to $504 a week, combined with $600 in federal pandemic unemployment compensation checks for a total of $1,104 a week. So my first question to Juana and Sonia is if you could please share your pronouns and whether you received any of these benefits during the pandemic.
La primera pregunta va a ser para Juana y Sonia. ¿Quieren que comparte sus pronombres? Y la pregunta es, ¿ustedes han recibido apoyo económico durante la pandemia? ¿Y por qué no empezamos con Sonia, con Street Vendor Project?
Ok, mi nombre es Sonia Perez, vivo en Brooklyn y pertenezco al proyecto de vendedores ambulantes. Bueno, en esta ocasión la pandemia nos ha afectado mucho, no tan solo a mí como vendedor ambulante, sino todo a la gente inmigrante que no cualificamos para ningún beneficio del gobierno federal y estatal. Estamos aquí para pedirle el apoyo para que incremente los impuestos a los millonarios y nos pueda ayudar a la gente trabajadora inmigrante que no contamos con ningún apoyo económico. Y en la comunidad, no tan solo yo he estado en adeudo de rentas, sino toda la comunidad hemos estado en eso, en el cual nosotros no hemos podido pagar nuestras rentas por toda esta situación de que no hay trabajo y no podemos regresar al trabajo.
Perfecto. Entonces, I'm going to translate for Sonia Perez. My name is Sonia Perez. I'm a member of the Street Vendor Project, and I'm a street vendor. In this moment, we have been so impacted by COVID, not just me as a street vendor, but also all excluded immigrants who do not qualify for state or federal stimulus. We are here to ask the support of viewers to call for a billionaire's tax and create emergency income. In our community, I have not just me, but all of my neighbors are in massive debt to our tenants, to our landlords. We are behind on rent. We do not have work and we cannot go back safely to work. Y ahora se lo paso a Juana para la misma pregunta. ¿Usted cómo ha sido usted ha recibido apoyo económico ahorita?
No hemos recibido, ni yo, ni mi familia, ni en nuestra comunidad hemos recibido un apoyo económico. Lo que estamos pidiendo es que por favor nos apoyen. No nomás somos un número acá. Todos trabajamos, todos pagamos impuestos. Y así como pagamos impuestos, también queremos que nos apoyen ahora, principalmente en nuestra comunidad. No nomás la comunidad inmigrante, a todas las personas. Hay personas que realmente dicen, no, es que la comunidad inmigrante que no tiene papeles. Hay mucha gente que tiene papeles también. E incluso mis hijas no recibieron el estímulo de los 1,200 y ellas son ciudadanas. Entonces, No nomás es los que no tenemos documentos. Ellas sí califican para el desempleo, pero nosotros no calificamos, pero tampoco no quisieron aplicar. ¿Por qué? Porque hay mucha gente que dice, no, si aplicas ahora, para tu viejez no vas a tenerlo. Entonces ahora nosotros necesitamos que nos ayuden a pagar la renta, que ayuden a las personas que han perdido a sus familiares, que nos ayuden a las personas, todas esas que también suman botellas en la calle simplemente por no queremos, por favor, ayude con ese estímulo, que siga ayudándonos, que siga cobrando a los millonarios, a todos esos que tienen o que pueden pagar más impuestos. ¿Por qué no quiere apoyarnos a nosotros, principalmente a las personas hispanas o a nuestra comunidad? No nomás a los hispanos necesitamos esto, hay muchas personas que también lo necesitan. Hay mucha gente en la calle durmiendo porque los han corrido de sus apartamentos por no poder pagar su renta. Hay mucha gente que no tiene ni poner un plato de comida a sus hijos, a sus familiares. Entonces, le pedimos al gobernador que nos ayude a toda la comunidad que tienen, en verdad, pueden pagar los impuestos, que lo hagan ahora, que lo hagan con esta epidemia, porque ahorita nos viene la epidemia y mañana ¿qué nos viene? Entonces queremos que firme y que nos sigan ayudando con más estímulos para las personas que no calificamos para un estímulo de $1,200 y también para las personas que recibieron los $1,200 no tienen para pagar, no les ayuda. Se imaginen, 1,200, ¿qué pueden hacer con eso?
Gracias. So I'm going to translate for Juana Alvarez. Juana is a longtime member of Make the Road New York and lives in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Neither me, myself, my family, or community have received economic support. We are not just a number. We all work, we all pay taxes, we give to our community, and we need to survive. It is not just the immigrant community or the undocumented community that are excluded. Even citizens are excluded. Even those who work in the informal cash economy are excluded, papers or no papers. My daughters, who are citizens, were excluded simply for being part of a mixed status family. Many of us don't qualify. And even if those do qualify, there's no trust in the system to help us get on time. We've been told you might apply for unemployment, but you may not get it until you're much older. So we're asking for life-saving support. We have too many people at risk of being in the streets. Too many people are already going into the streets. However, the rich are getting richer. We need to put taxes on the billionaires here in New York. Not only the Latinx community, but thousands of immigrants and excluded workers in our city are at risk. There are people who do not even have enough to put a plate of food on the table. This is on the governor. We are calling on you to pass a billionaire's tax. We are in a pandemic right now. It has not gone away and it is not going away. We are asking for support. What am I supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? How am I supposed to survive? Thank you.
I think anyone watching would agree that the fact that you've been excluded is wrong. And so I think you both already touched on it, but if you don't mind sharing, and you've talked a little bit about rent, you talked a little bit about debt, but in terms of access to food, medication, what has been this impact on not getting any support during this pandemic?
La pregunta del miembro del consejo para ustedes dos. Ya han hablado un poco sobre esto, pero ¿cómo han sido impactados de la falta de ayuda económica por parte del Estado? ¿Le ha impactado comprar comida, medicamentos, pagar su renta? ¿Cómo es que les está impactando en este momento? Y empezamos de nuevo con Sonia.
En el plan económico nos ha impactado porque pues al venir esta enfermedad, claro que se cerraron trabajos y no hemos podido trabajar, no hemos podido tener dinero ni acceso a comida, a pagar renta. En el plan médico, que no hemos podido ir a los hospitales y si tenemos alguna enfermedad, tenemos que quedarnos en casa por no contaminarnos para ir a hospitales. Eso sí nos ha impactado. Y más si padecemos de un seguro médico bajo, no podemos tampoco acceder al seguro médico que realmente necesitamos como comunidad o apoyo de él para que acceda a seguro médico para toda la comunidad y sea más accesible para todos. Eso ha sido un impacto muy fuerte. Y en el plan de la comida, pues sí, hemos tenido por organizaciones que nos han prohibido comida, nos han dado, como decimos nosotros los hispanos, despensas, o hemos ido donde hacemos largas líneas. A veces llegamos a la línea donde están entregando, pero por tanta gente que hay, no podemos accesar a esa comida porque ya se terminó. Entonces, ¿qué nos queda hacer? ¿Qué nos queda hacer? ¿O qué podemos hacer para que él pueda apoyarnos más con esto alivio que nosotros estamos padeciendo como inmigrantes?
Gracias, Sonia. Entonces voy a traducir por Sonia. I'm going to translate for Sonia. Sonia Perez, member of Street Vendor Project in Brooklyn. Of course, I've been impacted. Everything's shut down. We have not been able to find additional work. It's hard to access food, and we can't pay rent since March. Medication, please. We're scared to go to the hospitals in order to not get contaminated. This is how we're impacted. Even if we have health insurance, it's not enough for our community. Understood. In terms of food, we are sustained by community organizations. As many in our community say are despensas or food pantries, we go and wait in line for hours. The lines are so long. Sometimes there's thousands in line. Sometimes we wait until we get to the end just to find out that they're out of food. This is what I'm surviving on. Gracias, Sonia.
I'm so sorry, and that is so wrong.
Que no es justo.
Yeah.
Que no es justo. Juana, ¿usted sigue la pregunta siendo igual? ¿Cómo ha sido impactado ella, su familia, su comunidad? Y si puedes, me lo dices de una manera un poquito más despacio para que pueda asegurar que lo tengo todo, ¿eh? Pero con la misma pasión. Sí se corta un poco, Juana. A ver, muévete hasta que te pueda escuchar bien.
Okay. Es que me da coraje, Ángeles, me da coraje, siento repundón más que nada porque muchas familias tienen niños. Ok, usted me dice, hay mucha, no nomás en mi caso, como le acabo de decir, muchas de nuestras comunidades sufren porque no nomás tienen un niño, tienen 2 niños y muchas de las veces los padres dejamos de comer para darle de comer a nuestros hijos y nos impacta porque hay muchas personas o habemos muchas madres que no somos madres solteras y no podemos darle de comer a nuestros hijos y con esta epidemia mucha gente perdimos el trabajo, no tenemos para darle de comer a los hijos y no calificamos para ir a aplicar para los cupones de alimento o no aplicamos para muchas cosas. Entonces, como dice la compañera, hay muchas organizaciones que sí daban, pero también por cita. Entonces, muchas hacíamos demasiada fila, pero si yo que yo ya me tocó y veía yo una señora que venía con 2 niños, yo prefería darle la comida a esas personas. ¿Por qué? Porque yo dije, no, bueno, yo puedo, con mis 2 hijos puedo, pero esa señora nosotros no sabemos realmente, los niños andaban allí arriesgándose a que no pudieran comer. Mucha gente perdió la vida en esta epidemia, simplemente por andar juntando, como le dije, unas latas para darle de comer, poner un plato de comida en su mesa. Entonces, no es justo que, como dice el gobernador, él puede cocinar para los millonarios. ¿Y qué pasó con nosotros? ¿Qué pasa con nosotros? También somos seres humanos. Tal vez no nacimos en la cuna de oro como ellos, pero sí nacimos en un petate y tenemos respeto y también tenemos dignidad, pero también somos seres humanos que tenemos que salir adelante y tenemos que seguir luchando por nuestra comunidad. Mucha gente tiene miedo al salir, mucha gente le da miedo salir a buscar un trabajo y aunque salga ahorita no hay. Mucha gente perdió su trabajo. ¿Qué va a pasar entonces al rato si dejan de trabajar y no tengan ya para dar de comer? Entonces, no es justo, la verdad no es justo. Ese es un impacto para mí, para mi comunidad.
Juana Alvarez with Make the Road New York in Brooklyn says the following: I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I hate seeing kids struggle. So many of us in our community are suffering, and it's not just one child or 2 children that I see every now and then, it's many. It hurts that I'm not able to provide for our children, and I see so many mothers in a similar situation, crying, single mothers trying to provide for their kids. We can't feed our families. Many of us don't qualify for food stamps or are scared to apply. There are so many organizations that help, but it's limited and the lines are long. But listen, if I'm in line for my spot and I see a mom trying to get help, I'm going to give her my spot because I know what that feels like. I see how children and mothers are doing everything they can to survive. We've lost so many people in this pandemic, and we might lose more because families are willing to do whatever it takes to survive in the streets. And that puts them at danger, that puts them at risk. Maybe I wasn't raised in a golden crib like Governor Cuomo and the millionaires, but I'm also deserving of respect and dignity. It is unfair that they continue to get richer while our communities die. What are we going to do if I can't feed my family? This is unfair, it's an injustice, and we need the governor to act.
I want to thank Sonia and Juana for sharing your stories and that of your communities. When I heard your voice at an Excluded Workers rally and when MNN heard your voice, we wanted to amplify your voices. And I can't imagine anyone watching at home not feeling the same way I do in terms of wanting to help. I want to now turn to Ángeles and Carina. If you could share your pronouns, a little bit about your organizations, and I think both Sonia and Juana have been talking a little bit about it, but in terms of what you think New York State can do for excluded workers like Juana and Sonia.
First, thank you for having us here, and thank you to Juana and Sonia for sharing. I know how difficult it is to talk about what you're going through, but the more you speak up and the more you share, the more we all know. So thank you for sharing with us today. So my name is Carina. I'm the Deputy Director at the Street Vendor Project. We're a part of the Urban Justice Center, and we are a membership-based organization that works to defend the rights and improve the working conditions of the about 20,000 people who sell food and merchandise on the streets of New York City. And so as an organization, we work with over 2,000 street vendors across the 5 boroughs. On the day-to-day, we're working to increase the number of permits available to street vendors so that they can work legally and free from harassment. And now where we're finding ourselves in the middle of the COVID epidemic, it is still going on. It's still a health epidemic as well as an economic epidemic as well, is that the street vendors who are parents, who are caretakers, who are community members, and the leaders who keep New York City safe are, as small business owners and workers, significantly excluded from any city, state, federal benefits out there. Both as workers and as small business owners, they do contribute significant tax dollars to state and local economies. Because of many street vendors being either undocumented or cash economy workers, again, they've been ineligible for government support such as paid sick leave, unemployment insurance, or even most loans and grants available to small businesses, which has made a dire situation critical. For all folks who are undocumented in New York State, who are recently incarcerated, or for folks who work in the cash economy, they have been blocked from receiving state unemployment benefits and federal stimulus employment benefits. And so immigrant New Yorkers, like street vendors, right, they have been keeping our city running throughout the pandemic. 71% of the state's undocumented labor force works in essential business. 597,000 undocumented New Yorkers have been completely shut out of unemployment benefits, despite contributing over $140 million annually in unemployment taxes. And so we're here joining in as a coalition to fund excluded workers, because we know that relief must be tailored to meet the needs of all New Yorkers. No one should be excluded. Regardless of immigration status, everyone is a human being and should be supported. And I'm gonna pass it over to Ángeles to introduce herself and share more about what's the solution as organizations, what are we pushing for?
Hi everyone, my name is Ángeles. I'm the lead organizer of the Workplace Justice Team at Make the Road New York. We have 5 offices across the city, and we work to organize around housing rights, policing accountability, transgender non-conforming rights, worker rights, and immigrant rights. And in this pandemic, our members in our organization alone, we've lost over 76 members to this pandemic, and we are not prepared to lose more due to the failures of the state and of our elected officials. So we propose a solution that, quite frankly, is one of the best solutions that came about because of our organizing, because of efforts like Street Vendor Project, Make the Road, and our members on the front line, who for decades have said there are exploiters in our community who profit from our pain. And this is another moment where multimillionaires and billionaires are profiting from our pain. In New York alone, we have more billionaires than anywhere else in the world. And in the last week, we've added on just another 2 billionaires to our state who are not paying the taxes that they need to, their fair share of taxes, in order to ensure our people can survive. So the solution is simple. We are calling for a mark-to-market tax. What does this mean? This tax would create revenue based off of the unrealized capital gains of billionaires in New York and be able to raise over $5.5 billion in New York State revenue. Less than that is more than enough to cover emergency retroactive income for thousands of excluded New Yorkers. At $750 a week or close to $3,000 a month, everyone would be able to pay their back rent and survive the duration of the crisis with a tiny tax on the billionaires. And just to give people context of what a billionaire looks like, because our brains can't even fathom it sometimes, I'm gonna just read something quickly. Because our human brain has not evolved to understand these numbers, understand billions and trillions, as a result, we tend to vastly underestimate how large 1 billion is. So this is gonna help. 1 million seconds equals 11 days. So just for that perspective, 1 billion seconds equals 32 years. So when we're talking about millionaires versus billionaires, there is a massive difference. And I really want folks watching to internalize that here in New York, they're not going anywhere. They love staying here. They want to be here. We are in the economic engine of the world. And because Governor Cuomo has yet to put a billionaire's tax on that population here in our state, it means that people like Sonia and Juana are left trying to find ways to survive and provide for their families and provide for other families, which is not their responsibility. It is the responsibility of our elected officials to make billionaires pay and fund excluded workers. So I really want to encourage folks to go to fundexcludedworkers.org. We need people calling Governor Cuomo's office, calling ASC, calling Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the Assembly Speaker Carl Hasty, and pushing them to ask that those with the most among us give a little bit so that all of us can survive. So go to fundexcludedworkers.org, take 2 minutes to call Cuomo every single day so you can make a direct impact on the lives of people like Juana and Sonia. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing your stories. I'm so sorry to hear about the 76 members that you've lost to the pandemic, particularly as many are the heroes that we called on to be your essential workers. I'm hoping that if you're watching this show right now, you do go sign the petition. The URL should be up on the screen for you right now. Go visit it on your phone or on your computer. Share it with as many people as you can. Reach out to your assembly member, your state senator, the state Senate Majority Leader, the Assembly Majority Leader, Governor Cuomo, and everyone who needs to hear this. Share this video with anyone who doesn't know what's really going on. And I'm hoping that you're just as moved as I am, that you will join me in making the billionaires pay and helping Juana, Sonia, and so many other excluded workers throughout our city. And so I want to thank all the viewers, and I hope to see you all on Represent NYC at some point in the not too distant future. So thank you, and have a good day. Let's get this done for our excluded workers.